Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mob Psycho 100, Season 3, Episode 3. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. First and foremost, the Tsubomi stuff super surprised me, because at first I was almost like, is this going to be a Tsubomi-centric episode? But no. But it's like just a little peeks we've gotten into her personality the past two seasons. That one episode when she went with her friend to Regan's office, and it's like her being like, okay, well, we know she can be a skeptical person by nature, so she like went along with her friend, tested Regan just to make sure he wasn't a fraud. But it's like, oh, you can take his advice, it seems sound enough. But it's like she was basing that purely on, well, Mob like has a connection to this guy, so if Mom thinks he's okay, I think he's okay, because I trust Mob's judgment. But yeah, like she's around her friends this episode and she sneezes and she's like, I don't want them to see my face covered in snot, because then they're going to take a picture of it and show it everyone. She's like, I know that's what's going to happen. And it's like, I mean, I guess it's like, because it's like Tsubomi's always been presented as like, I mean, to be fair, Mob puts her on the top of a pedestal. I mean, to be fair, the rest of the school does too. She's kind of this, even I think it was Masato called her, like, she's like the idol at the school, and that Mob is so dense that he never realized that. Like, she's kind of like top tier to him, but it's also like, no, she's top tier to everyone else too. But it's so interesting. I mean, once again, everyone has their own insecurities and stuff, but like getting that peek into her psyche like that was so interesting. And lo and behold, who came through? Mob did. He's like, oh, I'm throwing away some trash. Like, hey, you guys, the teacher wanted you for something, and they leave. And so he and Mob ends up giving her tissue. And while that's happening, I'm like, Mob is talking to Tsubomi. Mob is talking to Tsubomi. Why is this not a bigger deal? He's not acting like it's anything different. He's just like, oh yeah, sure. And even she's like, wow, we haven't talked in a really long time. It's like, this is the first time for her. He's like, oh, I guess so. And she's like, well, see you later. And for him, it's like, wait, see you later? Oh my God, that meant the entire world in. Because it's like, yeah, he's always admired Tsubomi from afar. The last time that we're aware of, based on the flashbacks that they've ever taught, were back when they were kids. And then he kind of suffered psychic damage when she was like, oh, get a clue, or that's kind of boring. And she got more interested in guys who were fast. Once again, she was a kid, but it's also like Mob internalizes things the way he misunderstands things and kind of internalizes things a certain way. So, but at first I was like, that is amazing growth. You have not talked to her for going on years, but even in the confines of the show, you only talk to her like, this is your first time actually talking to her the entire show. So I was like, that in itself is progress. So you're like, wow, look at you, Mob. And he's like, oh man, maybe there's something to that, because he's almost trying. And this is the beauty of, and I say this as someone who's in a similar boat, the beauty of having no self-confidence, because you're like, oh, am I popular? No way, I'm misunderstanding. Because Mob constantly misunderstands and misinterprets things. So he's like, I'm trying not to get my hopes up. I'm like, yeah, the power of no self-confidence. But yeah, like then, Masato comes over and she's like, yo, like, we should go to that like psycho religion, helmet religion situation. There's going to be a meeting, you should come through. And then Tomei's like, yo, you told me you were going to hang out with me Sunday and we'll go look for some like psychics or whatnot. And he's just like, whoa, am I actually Popper? Amy comes over and she's like, oh, look at you, Mr. Popular. He's like, what? Me popular? She's like, oh, look at you playing dumb. But so now Mob's legitimately like, wait, me? No, there's no way I could be popular. And then his brother comes over and he's like, Nissan, I think I might be popular, because there's girls nearby looking at him. And I love this recurring bit throughout the episode and I love that it's been a recurring thing in the anime, like in his fight with Mogami and his fight with Suzuki, he shifted his face into kind of that pretty boy anime form. And but he has this like very stoic, muscular face with like the butt chin, and his voice completely changed. I'm curious if it's once again, I only brought up like once or twice. I'm watching the subbed version. So I'm curious is it like the same voice actor just shifting his voice, or did they get it's most likely the same voice actor just doing a different voice. I wonder I'm sure that's probably applicable in both the in the original. I'm sure that's the case in the Japanese version as well as like the English dub. But I love that it's like he's completely like, once again, misunderstanding this, because he's all like, oh my god, all these girls are looking at me and they're like, oh my god, Kageyama is so hot. I was like, well, your brother's right next to you, and then they literally say Risu's name, but he's so oblivious to all that. And it's like, yeah, they're talking about Risu, but then I love Risu being like, Nissan, congrats, bro, because he, once again, he's so proud of his brother, which is usually the other way around. Mob is always just so proud of him, so he's like, oh, look at you, bro, you're getting super popular. And how Mob, that's the thing, like, I expected Mob to go completely balls to the wall, like, be so full of himself, and he kind of is this episode, but not to the detrimental. I mean, detrimental for his own sake, because it's like, oh, he's building himself up just for a big fall. But it's never. It's such a weird thing, because like, I guess it's because it's like someone who's had no self-confidence becoming confident, and that overconfidence could turn you into a narcissist. I don't think he's quite gotten there yet. He's getting a little full of himself, but I don't think it's quite tiptoed into the negative space yet. I think because he has such a low opinion of himself that like it's kind of putting him on having like an average opinion of himself. It's like he's never really had an inflated ego, so it's so hard to like really put that into words when I'm saying. I'm hoping that's coming across like what I'm trying to say. Like, 'cause I just don't think he's going into full-blown douchebag narcissist mode, even though it could come off that way, and maybe to some people it does, but I just feel like he hasn't fully crossed that line yet. I feel like he's inching that way, but he hasn't quite gotten there yet. At the same time this is all going down, more and more people are worshiping and have their desires for the divine tree. And at first, when all that energy started gathering up, I'm like, oh, is that what it is? Because last episode I suggested like, oh, maybe the divine tree is like this because all of this was birthed about because of mainly Suzuki's energy. And so I was like, oh, is that what's going on? But then I'm like, oh, the desires are gathering up. So it's like, oh, is that like, is it a thing of like so many people, kind of like going back to like the Dragger and all those myths last season? It's like, right, the more you believe into something, the more life you give it. So I thought something was happening there. I'm like, oh, now this thing is coming to life because everyone's desire just had nothing necessarily to do with like remnants of Suzuki's power. But it turns out the divine tree wasn't getting any of that energy. It was going that direction, but it's an inanimate object. It's, not inanimate, but, it's not this sentient thing. It's a thing that just kind of goes about by instinct, on a super scale because of all the power. And it turns out Dimple's been absorbing all that energy, and he's ready to make his debut as a god and stuff, Once again, episode 1 got him thinking about it, but he's just kind of been sitting in I guess he's just been chilling on top of the tree ever since, just sucking up all that energy. So, aside from all that, we have Mob. He talks to Regan about... No, I think the first thing that happens is he's at home and Masato calls, and I love his mom's peeking in and like, ooh, it's a girl that's calling you. And he's like, right, I'm going to call you on my cell phone. But Masato saying like, yo, you need to show up because basically the religion is having a meeting, and basically it's going to be an audition for the true leader to show up. So for her, it's like, there's all these false people that are going to take that mantle if you don't take it, And it's like, oh, it'll make you popular, all these people, including Tsubomi. And that's when he's like, oh, okay, I'll think about it. That's when he sincerely was like, yo, I should probably do this. But... because, Masato was like, right, someone else getting that would be lame. Once again, she's very selfish in this because she just thinks like, holy crap, this is one of the coolest things that happens to me, where it's like someone I know could be like the head of this ever-growing religion. Plus, you're also like, you've been building yourself up. Plus, you actually have psychic powers too. So it's just like bonus upon bonus upon bonus. But anyway... Dimple shows up and him and Mob talk because he's like, yo, Mob, let's join forces. We could lead this religion together. Because he's saying like, yes, this has something to do with me because like I'm the one that basically brought everyone together. Because my religion, the LOL religion, was like the precursor to the Psycho Helmet religion. But Mob's like, yeah, but you like manipulated and controlled people. This situation, these people came together on their own and they're having fun and they're growing from it. So like for him, it's like, I don't want anyone to kind of try and take over that spot, to take that away from them. And he's like, yes, this is about me, but even he acknowledges I'm not built to lead a group like this. He's like, I'll show up just to kind of check things out, I guess, to make sure everything's kosher, making sure that no one's taking advantage of them. But for him, it's like he has no interest in that power, but Dimple does. But Mob asks, like, well, what are you going to do when you do become a god? And he's like, well, I haven't really thought that far ahead. And from Mob's perspective, it's just kind of like, let's, yes, there should probably be someone who's more fitting in that role, but it's not me and it's not you. And he's just telling Dimple just to kind of let that whole, like, because he's like, yeah, I know what happened to you. You've been feeding off the energy that's been, all the desires that's been heading towards the broccoli. And it's like, ooh, I wasn't expecting Mob to have figured that out. But he's like, no, I know what's going on. And he's like, that's fine. I'm not going to like make a big deal out of it. But it's just like, just give up that whole like wanting to be a god thing, or like, just kind of let that go. Because like for it kind of makes sense, because for Dimple, it's like that's the only goal he had for a while. I mean, that's been his main goal, and he had it for a bit, and that was taken away from him. But he kind of let that slip away with just everything that's going down over the course of the series. And now it's kind of like, oh, like if I don't have this, what is my purpose? Like, who am I without this goal? So it's like now that I'm back in the fray of, oh, I'm going to go down this route, because it's kind of like all that he has. It feels like you could draw a parallel with him and Suzuki, where you just like, it's not the same egotistical nature that Suzuki approached this whole thing, but it's still that thing of, it's just like, right, this is all I kind of have. What do I have outside of this? Who am I outside of all this? Especially because it's like, Dimple has grown, but I think for him, he's taken steps back rather than continuing to step forward. Whereas like Mob has continued to grow. And because of that, the effect he had, people have an effect on Mob, and Mob has had effect on a lot of people. Everyone around him has grown and has started taking steps in certain directions and stuff. But either way, it's just kind of interesting. And we see Dimple fly away, And so the next day, Mob talks to Regan about it, which Regan's apparently like, yeah, I'm bored. So tell me what you guys have been up to. Serizawa's night classes. He's like, yeah, I know I'm not going to be making any friends, but I'm still going to put in 110 effort. But I love that it's like, yeah, the only jobs that are coming in all these odd jobs, people must think we do odd jobs. And I love Mob being like, oh, I guess we don't do odd jobs. But it's like, yeah, it's related to the divine tree, because there's all this growth going on around the city. And, it's that thing of like, yeah, this has been happening in the background. You're just kind of turning it away because, Regan doesn't think there's anything psychically related. And I guess arguably Mob has been distracted as well with especially this episode. So... But he told that to Regan about everything, and he's like, all right, let me look into this group. This group sounds shady. Wait, it's 580,000 people a part of this group? You need to go there, become the founder, and tell them about your master, because he's like, oh my God, this will be a money opportunity. I mean, he checked out the website. There's merch and everything, which Mob's not seeing a single penny of it. It's very much like, if you ever played this Spider-Man game for a PS4, that's kind of the only like real descriptor you can have for it. That's a conversation Peter has about like, oh, like how do I go about making, like getting paid for my likeness rights from all this like merchandise being so it's just kind of that thing of like, people like, Mob's not even interested in that, but it is like, yeah, he's not going to see a lick of that money. I mean, who knows? Maybe the group would be like, oh no, our founder's been found. So here's all the money we accumulated from the profits of our merch and stuff like that. Either way. But once again, Regan looking after himself. You have Mob hanging out with Teru and takes him to go get some new clothes for like what he's about to do at this meeting. And I love that initially Mob is thinking like, oh my God, look at all these girls, they're staring at me. But Teru's like, yeah, because you're a cool guy. And I'm like, look at you, Teru. But it's like, no, it's definitely about Teru. You don't even need the context. You just know like, well, because Teru is beside him, they're most likely like fangirling over Teru. But yeah, they go shopping because he got like a 5,000 yen bonus from Regan. Because like Regan normally pays him like what, 500 yen, and I think that's like the equivalency of maybe $5. That's a very, very loose estimate. I'm sure it's probably like $3 and something, if not like $4 and something. The 5,000 will make it like maybe $50, maybe. Once again, these are very, very rough estimates. That's always been my understanding. If you want like a trend, like very rough conversion rate for like won and yen to like the US dollar, the rule of thumb typically is drop 2 zeros. Once again, it's not inexact, but it give you a very, very rough, very, very rough like idea. So anyway, I love the thing he walked away from. If it was a weird shirt with like a monkey on it, and that made people take even more notice of him. But I love before he left, Reese is like, "Oh, you're gonna wear it at?" He's like, "Yeah, Terry bought this for me." He's like, "Oh, cool, sure thing, bro." I did think it was interesting. He was trying to get in contact with Masato and Tomei because he's supposed to hang out with Tomei first during the day and then later at night with Masato at the meeting, but he couldn't get in contact with either one. I was like, that is interesting. I wonder why. And so when the meeting happens and we see there's a whole bunch of different groups all vying, having their different ideas about the divine tree. One of said groups is Judo's group. I thought it was really interesting that Shinra's not there. So I'm like, oh, did Shinra quit or he just not there at that meeting? Like, I mean, I'd assume he'd know that was about Mob. But I don't know. I'm also surprised. I mean, maybe she'll pop up next episode. I'm blanking on her name, but the girl from episode 4 and 5, the one that Mogami was possessing, she and her family donated a good chunk to kind of lead the Psycho Helmet religion to be where it is, right? But I don't know. Like I said, if she didn't pop up this episode, I could definitely see her popping up next episode. Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, all the while this is going on, I'm like, well, will Dimple make a move? And lo and behold, we have someone show up pretending to be Mob. And you're like, is that Dimple? But it's like, it looks like it's a makeshift body meant to look like Mob, but I don't know how that person managed to do that. I don't know if it's like because it doesn't look real. It looks like almost paper mache-ish. I don't think I'm saying the right thing, but it's like a certain material that the body seems to be made out of, and I don't know like if that's illusionary psychic powers or what. But they're saying like the reason why they decided to reveal themselves after the crisis that was last season is like whoever it was knows the truth about everything that went down. So I don't know if this is someone that's from the remnants of Claw trying to take advantage of this situation or what. I'd assume so. Because this kind of plays into the theory I had where I was like, my theory was like, okay, it might seem like obviously like Dimple might be behind this, but then you find out it's actually not Dimple at all. Because Dimple, typically when Dimple possesses someone, he has his, his red marks on his cheeks pop up on the body. So it's not a body possession, but maybe he gathered up enough energy to transform. Because the last time we saw Dimple was after him and Mob had their disagreement, and he just kind of bounced without saying a word afterwards. So like I said, it feels like it's meant to kind of be a red herring to make you think it's Dimple, but I don't think it is. But I'd also thrown out there like maybe it straight up will be Dimple going down the evil route. But I think what Mob said to him did strike a chord, and he decides not to. And once again, this probably has something to do with Masato and Tomei's disappearance, because this fake Mob shows up just when he's meant to hang out with those two. So I think maybe they got kidnapped or something, and they're going to be used as leverage to make sure that Mob doesn't actually show up. I don't know. Because his phone is currently dead, so Regan tried to call him but couldn't get in contact with him. Because for Mob, it's like, oh, like Tomei or Masato are late, so I'll just sit here and wait for him, and his phone died. So and then finally the episode ends with like the fake Mob making the tree grow inside there, so he does have control over the broccoli and is growing it. So who this person is, where this all ends up taking us, is definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.